through the years, as you were building Axie, have been building Ronin, what has been the biggest challenges that you have faced as a co-founder?
Axie has around 180,000 monthly active users. It generates around $200,000 a month. It's doing well. We need to reintroduce some crazy concepts, right?
How would you justify for some of the founders that are watching this, that want to revolutionize the future of this industry like you are?
You need to do it carefully. Anything you do in this space will come with expectations. Anything you do as an entrepreneur will come with expectations, right? I don't recommend doing this if you have a thin skin.
Would you say that a good product with poor marketing would outperform a poor product with good marketing?
Distribution is king, right? A lesser product can win because of distribution. Why do people say that community is king in Web3? Well, because community is your distribution.
So would you say a good founder is a master of one or jack of all trades? So hey, Jihoz, my man, it's great to have you here. You are the founder, or the co-founder, I will say, of Axie Infinity and Ronin. Ronin is the second most used blockchain in the world, according to a tweet made by Ronin today. And you have about 1.2 million daily active users in your ecosystem. To say that you guys are market movers, to say that you are a juggernaut in the Web3, the NFT, and the crypto space would be an understatement. But Jihoz, I have a question for you. Oftentimes, the biggest tree in the forest has lived through the most storms. So my question for you is, through the years, as you were building Axie, as you have been building Ronin, what has been the biggest challenges that you have faced as a co-founder along the journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear. I think many people will be familiar with the fact that Axie and Ronin, we were forged by fire, right? We've been through multiple bear markets. We've been through multiple near-death experiences, right? Like I kind of think of us as a Super Saiyan or a Saiyan, right? Every time we almost die, we come back stronger. That's a feature, not a bug, right? Becoming anti-fragile, that's part of the process, right? So I think the biggest challenge has been that there is no playbook for what we're doing. We're building in an industry that is very new, and we're building within a subset of that industry, Web3 gaming, right? That is quite small. There aren't many success stories or success cases. So a lot of the things, it's not just like an execution problem, right? Or a resilience or a willpower thing. It's also an innovation question, right? Like how do you come up with ideas that have never been done before? So you really have to think from first principles, I think, or have a cross-disciplinary approach, right, where you're like, hey, this is something that worked over there, right? Like, so play to earn, what is play to earn inspired by if play to earn didn't exist? It was inspired by looking at things like Uber paying drivers when there were no riders, right? So you have to like look all across the startup space, even into biology, right? Like biology, astronomy, physics for ideas, because there is nothing to look at in the space, especially in the early days, right? It's gotten earlier. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, right? Is like that there is no, right? Like how can you teach something or how can you know what to do if it's a totally new industry?
And it's interesting you say that. I heard it somewhere that innovation is when you take two things that were never seen together, you find a way to put them together for the first time. For you and Ronin, would you say that niching down, going sub-niche, not only blockchain, but blockchain gaming, and being the dominant chain for that, do you think that facilitated in your process of becoming anti-fragile, navigating the storms as they came and they've gone? And was that, for you, a thoughtful process that we are going to niche down and this is the niche we're going to dominate? Or do you intend on reaching out eventually from that niche?
So the biggest businesses, right, they always start super small and then expand out, right? This is common startup industry knowledge. Amazon started as an online bookstore. Google, just a search engine, right? So our plan is to dominate gaming, right? First, it was like, let's be the #1 most used game, right? Then we can roll that in, right? You already see us expanding out, right? First, we were just one game, Axie Infinity. Boom, we use that as distribution and go to market for the infrastructure. Boom, we expand out. Now we have like the dominant gaming chain. So we have the users aggregated. The thing that Web3 is missing is user adoption by everyday people. And so now that we have this, right, we shore up this monopoly, right, of gaming adoption. And then what is the next vertical that you can expand into, right? There are a lot. E-commerce, payments, right? To actually fulfill the original dream of this industry, right, was to democratize financial services, democratize the ability to transfer money to anyone, anywhere in the world. You now start to like disrupt things like Western Union, right, with money transfers like that. You start to disrupt things like credit card companies, right? Have you ever tried to use like an American Express card? Like in most parts of the world, they don't even take American Express because it's like almost a 2.5% plus fee, right? Imagine if it was just 0.2%. These are some of the right like business opportunities that open up, and this is also like one of the things that prevents people from competing in the space and like prevents people from being able to even comprehend what we're doing. Because what if gaming is not necessarily where you make the money, right? People are like, oh, play to earn, Web3 gaming needs to be sustainable, right? They keep thinking about like applying Web2 and antiquated models of monetization onto a new industry, right? So it's like, why should the individual games themselves even need to be sustainable if the thing that you're building is this huge network and you can monetize on like, right, e-commerce, payments, things like that, right? Uber is maybe even a good example, right? Like people were like, oh, Uber. Like I had a lot of friends who worked at Uber and they went through like similar haters. They had mad haters, right? Like Travis had haters, the business model had haters. And people were like, oh, Uber's losing money, Uber's spending money, it's not sustainable, right? But then it's like, no, they just moved in, they had Uber Eats, and now they're actually printing money, right? They just had their first profitable year. Okay. So, I can say all these things, literally people will, not do it. So I don't feel like, and they're not, no one is in the position, right, to even be able to do it, right? So I feel okay just being out here telling people how we think about the potential strategy long term. Because I do believe that we're the only ones in the position to execute this because we do have, right, we have the people, we have the gamers on our side, we have we have the users.
Wow, what a point. What a point. Losing on the front end with a product that might not be profitable, so you can win on the back end with these customers now that they're in your ecosystem. Can we dive a little bit deeper, one layer deeper into that? How does that look like for Axie, for an ecosystem like that of Ronin? You have multiple games, you have millions of users. To the extent that you can share, your onboarding process is play to earn. But how is it that you've built an ecosystem that is self-sustaining or on the path to that?
Yeah, so Axie is actually too boring and too sustainable right now. Axie generates around $200,000 a month in revenue. It's one of the most boring and sustainable products in all of crypto. It went from being the face of play to earn, lots of people screaming and whining and being scared about it, to now being one of the most boring sustainable products in crypto. I think it's too boring and sustainable for this bear market, which is I think people are kind of what's going on with Axie, right? Axie has around 180,000 monthly active users. It generates around $200,000 a month. It's doing pretty well. It is, right? It's doing well, but I think that we need to reintroduce some crazy concepts, right? So I just tweeted yesterday, right? Would you play Axie if you could earn a kilo of rice per week by just playing 10 minutes per day? And people seemed really interested in that, right? Can we test out some basic income experiments? Can we really bring back play to earn? So these are some of the things that I'm thinking about with Axie. Of course, the games are going to continue to get better. The IP needs to be developed. We're going to experiment with different Web3 mechanics, right? We just actually introduced dynamic NFTs through Axie. This is an idea that's ahead of its time. It's too good for the current market. It's basically the idea that, right, Axies are becoming digital collectibles that get more valuable, get more powerful, get more beautiful the more you use them, right? So basically, Axies now have on-chain levels, and you can actually upgrade their appearance, how strong they are, based on their on-chain levels, right? And you actually need experience points to increase their on-chain levels. This idea is too good for the current market. Eventually, I think this will be the standard within NFT collections, but right now it's too innovative, and it might just not have had the right push or the right circumstances, right? Like we actually created Play to Earn, and made the first X-Human, one of our community members, made the first Uniswap SLP pool back in 2020. It took about 10 to 14 months for Play to Earn to really take off, right? So I think dynamic NFT is going to be a thing. I think that we're leading the space when it comes to dynamic NFTs.
Yeah.
And the right conditions have just not necessarily like percolated to really have it go exponential, but people are spending around $20,000 a week upgrading their Axies, right? So when you think about like new interesting business models, this is it, right? Like most NFT collections, they have to rely on mints or creator royalties. This is more like a subscription, right? People are basically paying AXS, Axis tokens, right, for the right to upgrade their Axies, right, alongside, right, like different gameplay requirements. So those are some of the things I'm thinking about with Axie right now.
Interesting, fascinating. There's so many angles we can take from here. You mentioned the word business model, which was very good. One of the issues that with this industry that we're in is that we're still trying to figure ourselves out. We're in that stage of the internet back over 20 years ago when there was a lot of startups, a lot of companies, and a lot of speculation, but there was not a proven blueprint that people could replicate and businesses could come in and inject large liquidity to build onboard their existing customers and build on top of. You mentioned business model. What does the way you see from a theoretical perspective, what does the business model of digital collectibles, as we call NFTs, what does that look like the way you see it?
I would say that this is something that has not really been figured out by the industry. But here are some of the things that we probably know about digital collectibles, right, and NFTs. They are great for bootstrapping attention. They are great for forming an early community. They are seen as a form of debt, where if you issue NFTs, there's an expectation, right, that that the people who buy them or earn them get some sort of value in return. That could be monetary value, right? That could be social status. That could be fun and enjoyment. But the means in which you repay that debt, in quotation marks, as a founder is actually what creates culture. This is what I believe. So people are like, why would I, be beholden to these holders? Why would I cave to their needy demands? But no, I actually believe that, right, by having that relationship, that interplay, that exchange of value, that's actually how you create culture. And right, it's building blocks, right? Because we don't necessarily need to have a very sustainable, boring business right now. Mm-hmm. It's the birth of the industry, right? So it's like someone once told me, if your VC is asking you in your seed round, even your Series A, about your business model, like run from that VC, right? Because the thing that you're trying to do is get product market fit. Or traction, attention, right? We call it the attention economy now, right? It's like right now we're just like figuring out how to bootstrap attention, how to bootstrap people using the technology. The boring, the boring stuff, I think we'll get figured out later. But so those are some of my thoughts, right, around NFTs, around digital collectibles, about how we use them. And yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. I see them a little bit in terms of, right, like debt or expectations, right?
Yes.
You create them, and then people have all these expectations. And some founders crumble at that, and they're like,
Yes.
I'm not going to do it. I cannot deal with having all these people wanting something from me. I'm used to people wanting things from me all my life. So I think we're okay with it, right? And then it's like, how do you basically can create that culture, and that culture, can be used to bootstrap other things, right? But it's not perfect, right? Like we have, these very hard questions, right? Like, right, should the origin axes and the original axes, should they like go up more than AXS or RON, right? Are they a similar asset class, or are they different? And these are all really hard things, but we have some experiments cooking, right? For example, imagine if rather than staking your NFT, right, to get tokens, what if holding an NFT that is like high status, right, like a Mystic Axie, like an Origin Axie, acted as a staking modifier, right? So then it's like if you're staking, your staking pool, your rewards are not just like right dependent on your amount, right? It's also like dependent on some of the markers of reputation that you have in the ecosystem, with these digital collectibles, right, being one of those inputs.
Okay, the 3 points you made, which are a brand emitting NFTs will achieve 3 things. The first one, you can bootstrap attention. You can foster stronger community spirit. And number 3, they are seen as a form of debt that you have to repay to your community. If we were to dance a little bit around that idea together, how would you justify for some of the founders that are watching this, that want to revolutionize the future of this industry like you are today? How would you justify them taking on the cost of community, which is oftentimes seen as a liability after they launch their NFT?
You need to do it carefully. But if you don't launch something of value, right, either a token, right, an NFT, anything you do in this space will come with expectations. Anything you do as an entrepreneur will come with expectations, right? It's not just, right, it's not, in the past that would be like your friends, your family, the people around you, your investors, right? Now this is way more vulnerable of a thing because you're building in public. It takes a special type of person. I don't recommend doing this if you have a thin skin. If you're afraid of what people think of you, if you're afraid of people wanting stuff from you, this is not for you, right? Some people thrive on that, though. Some people love to deliver. And some people have been waiting their entire lives to build a product that people care about so much. They care too much, right? That's where one of the things about NFTs is people care literally sometimes too much, right? They're like yelling at you, but they're, right? It's like, don't run away from that, right? Don't ban those people, right? It's like, meet that with, wow, like, I really feel so honored that you feel this strongly about this, right? Like the number one thing that, right, it's like the number one thing that you want to avoid is indifference, right? Like people not caring, right? It's like on the extremes, right? Like that's good, right? Like you want to have like some intense love and some intense hate. These are one of the things that's, right, like before we had NFTs, crypto was so freaking boring. There was no emotion, right? Now, like with NFTs, there's almost too much emotion, right?
Very interesting. Very interesting. It's funny what you say. The last thing you want is people being indifferent. I think it was Warren Buffett. He said, good press, bad press. The only thing you never want is someone mispronouncing your name. Is someone completely forgetting about your brand. And like you said, with passion, you get the two sides. You get the ups and the downs that comes with a passionate community behind you. Jihoz, would you see NFT holders, would you see them more as shareholders or customers?
it's a new form of relationship between the founders and the people in the community, right? It's a new asset class. It's a new form of a relationship, right? So I don't see them as either. I would see them as partners or co-builders, right? We're co-creating. What are the things that we're doing? We're co-creating together. We're building together. They're very intimately involved in the process of building out your product, of spreading your product. They are doing things, right? They're helping to shape the product direction. They're helping to onboard people into the community, right? Like 70% of people, at least in our ecosystem, 40% of people in our ecosystem were onboarded by a friend or family member. Very, very important, right? And that's actually just around the same amount that's onboarded via Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, right? So we talk a lot about creators, but actually a lot of the onboarding is done by the everyday community members that you might not even consider a creator, right? So it's a special relationship. I don't know. I see I see our community members as a lot of them from the early days. They're just my friends, right? Like people, I think sometimes used to find that hard to comprehend. They're like, how do you know like what these people think? It's like, well, I'm talking to them. I even live near some of them, live with some of them at certain points. So,
okay, partners. What is one skill you wished you had 3 years ago?
Maybe better like project management skills. My way of leading, right, is like, I don't know. I like to lead by inspiration, lead by example. Sometimes I feel like, maybe that's maybe something that could have helped, right? Is like, that's something that I had to get better at, right? Is like, how do we actually go from great idea and energetic team, right, to like, okay, it's actually happening. That's maybe one thing. Maybe, I lead the growth team, right? And a growth team, how does that differ from a marketing team? It's right, you can have like more effect on the product, right? They basically the entire user journey rather than just more bottom of funnel, right? Or more top of funnel. Sorry. So
you're more
I think
of a
like maybe better understanding of like agile development practices, right? Product development, how I could interface and teach my team to interface better with like the product managers and leaders within our company. That's still something that I'm learning more about, right? So because like this is one of the things, right? Is as you scale as a company, right, in the beginning, the people building the products will be like, it might be the founders, right? You're very on the front lines, right? So it's very like easy to know and be purposeful about, what of the things that the community wants are making it into the product and which of the things are not making into it for some like justification or some good reason. But eventually you have to build a bridge between the new people working on the product as you expand out your team, right, to the community. Right now, this is something, it's like the founders still have to actually do a lot of this, right? And we have to be very hands-on. How do you basically create like product managers that can, almost do it themselves? Or how do you create like information funnels? Because there's going to be more noise, right? It's easier in the early days because founders, I think, like know how to do this kind of stuff. It's that's part of being a founder, but also because the signal is not as much, right? It's like there are less inputs, right? But over time, as you scale your team, right, it's like the people building the products on a day-to-day basis, right, are not the founders, and you're getting like so many more like pieces of feedback that need to somehow be distilled and refined, right, and fed to them.
Okay. And would you say, how did you learn these skills? On the field, theoretical? Did you have mentors?
I think by trial and error, experimentation. I would say maybe these are things that I'm still not good enough at. But force of will. And maybe acknowledge, right? Or it's like first, the hardest part is knowing, right, what you don't know, right? That's part of even like fixing the problem, right? Is like knowing what the problem is, right? If you know what the problem is, you can kind of ask questions and throw people at it.
Let's talk to all the Web3 founders that are watching this right now. Out of the thousands of skill sets that a human can possess, what would you say are the core 2 to 3 that one needs to possess to be a successful founder?
I don't look for teams with well-balanced founders, right? I look for founding teams that are well-balanced but have like unbalanced individuals, right? I think this is what you want, right? So it's like you want across your founding team to have someone who's like great at like interfacing with the community and understanding what they want, right? And you want someone who is an engineer. I think maybe often good for the CEO to also be an engineer because you need to, it's like you need to know like how difficult things are going to be before you decide to do them and build them, right? And a lot of times in Web3, that's like, how difficult is this thing that we want to bet the company on? How difficult is this going to actually be to build or code, right? Yeah, I think you want to have someone with like great business and negotiation sense, right? And then I think you want to have someone with like good aesthetic sense, ideally.
Good aesthetics.
So the hype man. Or no, sorry, aesthetic, right? Like aesthetic, like art, design, right?
Understood.
So I think like one of our strengths is that we have a lot of co-founders for Sky Mavis. We have a lot, right? Like I'm one of like 5, right? So.
You're about to pull the math equations behind you on that board. So would you say a good founder is a master of one or jack of all trades?
Yeah, I don't think you want jack of all trades. You want to have like a balanced team, but by having like a variety of imbalanced individuals, right? And then it's like, yeah, like, right, engineering understanding, aesthetic understanding, business sense, and then like hype and community sense, right? Like, let's say like you don't want, right, anyone who has all 4 of those, but you want like 4 people, right, 4 to 5 people, right, who are each who are each good at like 2 of those things, right?
Okay. Ronin is very product strong. You have an incredible product. I remember when I set up my Ronin wallet, the experience was so smooth, the email, you can back it up. It was amazing. Would you say that a good product with poor marketing would outperform a poor product with good marketing?
Distribution is king, right? So distribution, right? Like a lesser product can win because of distribution. Yeah. Of course, the product has to be good enough. But yeah, I mean, this is something that people like probably need to understand more in Web3, right? Is like, why do people say that community is king in Web3? Well, because community is your distribution. So if you like study distribution, right? There are actually like 25 buckets of distribution channels that traditional startups use. In Web 2, community is seen as just one of them, right? There are Web 2 startups that use community as a distribution channel. Reddit, for example, is like the example used in one of the books that I read, right? That's actually probably why Alexis Ohanian is an investor in Sky Mavis and understands Web 3. But so in Web 2, community is just one of like many distribution channels. In Web 3, community is the only distribution channel that's ever been proven to work. Community is the distribution channel, and community amplifies all other strategies, right? Oh, you're going fire on socials, right? Like your community is going to be the ones spreading that and making it work, right? You have a referral program, like obviously, right? The people using this and spreading it out are going to be the community. Yeah, right, play to earn, right? Play to earn tokens, right? These things only work if your community are the first initial users, and then they tell their friends about it. I think the cool thing about our products are we're able to make products that our core community loves so much that they bring their friends and their family into it. There are many Ronin families, many Ronin couples. I don't see that happening on other chains. And I think somewhere in there, right, like study that. That's behind our success.
Study Ronin. Community is the main distribution channel. So good, I had to write it down. You spoke about dynamic NFTs, how much ahead of the trend you are. One of the big challenges I see a lot of founders that I speak with face is that they spend way too long building their product only to find that the market has outpaced them and they are now outdated. How does one remain competitive and up to date with the latest trends that are happening?
What is your information diet? This is something that someone from our team, Bailey, he's a head of Ronin ecosystem, right? He was like, he once asked this to someone. It's like, what is your information diet? And that kind of stuck with me, right? So it's like, I don't believe necessarily in people just being geniuses and coming up with crazy ideas. I do think that it's being exposed to the right ideas, the right people, and then right you start to like mix and match. So yeah, you mentioned right that the definition or like a way to systematize innovation is to combine things that have never been combined before. So part of that right is like, oh, what are you reading? Who are you following? Right, you see some cool idea. Oh, like Pac-Moon, right? Like that was a sick like airdrop distribution. How do we take what they did and apply that to like the Ronin Creator Program, right? That's usually what it is. Like, oh, friend pet, right? Like, oh, they made like an on-chain Tamagotchi. Like, yo, they should not be like having any market. That's our market, right? Like, what are they doing that's interesting that we can take and like put an Axie twist on it, right? So those are some of the I don't know if we're gonna do those, right? But those are some of the things that I've asked. Literally, I have asked those questions internally this week. I don't know if they'll come to something. You probably have to ask or like imagine, right? It's like /imagine, right? /imagine Pac-Moon /Ronin Creator Program, right? Would that work? Maybe not. Oh, like we found some reason that we shouldn't do it, right? Probably that will happen, right? Like these things only have like a 1 or 2% hit rate. Friend pet, like, oh, Tamagotchi, like, let's actually fucking build a Tamagotchi for Axie, right? It's like, oh, yeah. We talked to the app.axie team, we talked to all the games teams, like, everyone thinks this is cool, but, we don't think the risk reward is good enough right now, right? Or maybe it is, right? But I think that's how I've seen traditionally that happen, right? Is like the information diet. Where did the play idea for play to earn is because like we were studying DeFi, right? We were studying Uniswap back in 2019, 2020, when before, and first of all, nobody was even building Web3 games back then. There's like us and 3 others, which are all now like out of business except for like Gods Unchained. Like shout out to Gods Unchained for their persistence. Right, but nobody, right? So it's like you had to be there. You had to be in the right position, building a Web3 game, and then it's like your information diet has to be like not obviously Web3 gaming. Literally, there was nobody in the space. So it's like, where can we take ideas from? Where can we pull ideas from? Where can we? It's like Ratatouille, right? Like, like when he's like, oh, like what if I freaking eat a strawberry and a cheese at the same time?
Okay, fascinating. The information diet. Before we wrap up, Jihoz, talking about trends, what would you say is the future of play to earn?
So this is like this is a topic that's spreading again, right? Because play to earn is working again. Play to earn is freaking back, right? People didn't expect this. People were like crying. Even us, we had to kind of downplay it during the bear market, right? Because you don't want to say that, you don't want to basically create these expectations in a bear market. People are gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about, play to earn? Right? The market is going down, right? Like I'm earning like 1 cent per week or something, right? Like this is bullshit, right? No, but it's like the bull market is back. Like, we should not take ourselves so seriously that we close ourselves off from what's actually happening, what people actually want. So yeah, play to earn is back, and I think that's great news for people. But obviously, right, like we'll need to play with the model more, right? How can we make it more fun, more engaging? Yeah, even, right, dare I say, more sustainable, right? What are the different token syncs that people would love to experiment with? You know, one of the things that I think is cool is like Cambria is building on, Cambria is kind of like RuneScape Dual Arena. RuneScape Dual Arena was such an effective sync for in RuneScape that they had to take it out of the game because people were betting too much in RuneScape Dual Arena, right? So it's like, you know, can there be, right? So RuneScape actually already solved sustainability, but they actually choose to remove that huge gold sink because it was like literally too effective, right?
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I think the future of play to earn is like, yo, what balance the economy in RuneScape and EVE Online, right? We already have these play to earn economies that have been alive for 20 years. So let's bring some of the best mechanics from there, right?
Okay. So tapping inspiration from Web2.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, right, these are I wouldn't call RuneScape and EVE Online Web 2.
Web
I would
2,
call
yeah.
them freaking, right, the first play to earn games. The innovators, they're the pioneers, they're the OGs, right? Like we have to tip our cap to them.
The giants on whose shoulders we're standing on right now.
I mean, you know, I know Hilmar has given us advice, the founder of EVE Online. Yeah, I mean, RuneScape, right, is like RuneScape is just study RuneScape.
Steady RuneScape. As a closing note, Jihoz, this has been incredible. What is one piece of advice, motivation, inspiration that you have for aspiring founders that hope to one day become a founder like you, Jihoz?
You have to find co-founders. Like my biggest advice is like find co-founders that you can trust and that you want to work with, because they're going to become like your, you know, they're going to become like your best friends, the people that you spend the most time with in the world. It's like almost choosing a spouse, right? If you don't do that, I think like a lot of business issues come probably down to like co-founder problems. And I think a lot of our success is because we have the right mix. Like we hang out. I lived with them, right? Like that's why in 2018, 2019, I actually went to go and live in Vietnam. Was to, you know, even see like, oh, is this like some chemistry that could work for 20 years, right? And so I think like that's what I feel most blessed about is, right, even though we've gone through like a lot of hard times, right? Like I think because we have a good co-founder dynamic and chemistry, like that's made it, right? To be honest, like people are always like, yo, like how do you go through so much crazy stuff? But you know, I owe it to my co-founders,
Right.
to the founding team, and also my wife. So yeah, pick the right founders and pick the right significant other.
Beautiful, beautiful. Jihoz, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. This is a lot of golden nuggets. I appreciate you, Jihoz.
Awesome, man. No, thanks for having me.